Okay, well, greetings. I've only got a small window of opportunity tonight. Really totally getting stuck into my new job. Job. Isn't it great to be a slave, hey? Reading meters for the power guys. I'm not going to go into the politics of that. All I know is fine. It actually is good. Yeah, I don't mind it. Gets me up in the morning, keeps me motivated, gets me to bed early. I don't even know what freaking time is. But anyway, I did go out again with this freaking thing. And I'm not really going to bother doing it again because it is so inconclusive, it's not funny. It really isn't. Because last night, well, it wasn't last night, it was actually Saturday, which would have been the 8th. Tonight's Monday the 10th. See, I'm coherent enough tonight to know. Tonight's the 10th. And the moon is still not quite full. I think it's going to be full tomorrow night, which would be the 11th. We're getting close to Easter. It's always full around Easter. Obviously this year they made it. It's always the closest Sunday to the full moon around the autumn equinox. That's how they decide when Easter is. Unlike Christmas. Christmas is the 25th of December. Regardless. Because the solstice of the sun is always the 21st or 22nd of December, give or take. Because of our sidereal day. So it's either one or the other. But Easter, on the other hand, it's a moon celebration. It's a far more pagan celebration. It's Ishtar. Pronounced Easter, perhaps. And so it's always the Sunday of the full moon, the Sunday nearest to the full moon of the autumn equinox. Well, for us it's autumn. For you blokes in the northern hemisphere, it's the spring equinox. Hence why spring, obviously your snow and shit is melting and everything is springing up again. And so you say, oh, it's the sign of new life. Somehow they twisted this into crucifying Jesus on the cross, on the Good Friday. And in 3 days he rose again on the spring equinox. Which sort of defeats the whole purpose of Christmas way back here in the fucking 25th of December, when on the summer solstice, or for you northern hemispherians, winter solstice, the Son of God dies on the 22nd or 21st, give or take, and rises 3 days later. Hence why the birth of Christ, or the Son of God, is the 25th of December. So we celebrate Christmas. But then again we do the rebirth in the spring equinox. Well, for us it's the autumnal equinox. And it always gives me the shits why we even celebrate Christmas on the 25th of December when it's like one of the hottest days of the year here in the southern hemisphere. It's like, what the fuck? You gotta be kidding. Everybody's putting out all these extra lights and shit around their houses and burning a whole shitload more of electricity. Why don't we just do that in the middle of winter? Yeah. We're too indoctrinated with the northern hemispherian way of doing shit. So that's why we do it. And anyway, the other night, 2 nights ago, while I was out there with that thermometer guide, as I did again tonight, just reading the road temperature, walking through forested areas where it's dark, and then coming back out into moonlight. Inconclusively. As I'd walked through a moonlit area, it was like 25, 26 degrees. Get into the shaded area, quickly dropped. It got down to 18 or 19 degrees in most places. As soon as I walked back out into the moonlit areas, started climbing in 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 degrees again. Same again tonight, even though the moon is pretty much close to full. To say the moon produces a cool light, I don't know where you live, I don't know what you're using to test this, but the moon does not produce a cool light. If anything, it produces a very warm light, or it allows the warmth of the road from the day to still be there. In the shaded areas, it dropped down 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees. Dropped down. Now, yes, I've done these experiments before as well in the latter part of the night, like say midnight, and it does do the opposite. I will grant you that. It does. So therefore, these experiments are completely inconclusive, done by complete amateurs looking for something to yeah, of course there's a word for it, just something to satisfy what they feel, what they wish it to be. If they say it's meant to be cooler in moonlight, they'll find a way to make it. If you want to find a way to make it warmer in moonlight, I found a way to make it distinctly. There is no conclusive proof one way or another. What we need to do then is actually make this a scientific hypothesis, draw up a set of guidelines for how it must be done, and this can take months and months, maybe even years, to actually prove one way or another by doing a whole heap of standardized tests where you've got something not in the moonlight, something in the moonlight, and two objects that came from without of the moonlight and put them into it and measure them over a period of time. Sorry, I don't need those. A message just popped up from my son. Don't worry, Jack, I'll get back to you soon. Yeah, the scientific method, it doesn't get done overnight. To conclude that moonlight is a cool light from a few simple experiments, we haven't even touched the edge of all the variables that have to be taken into account. Because I've seen the exact opposite. And I've also seen where it does. We say 10 o'clock at night, it's not even that at the moment, as we're heading into our winter here. And you've got to take into the seasonal variations. You've got to take into air pressure, daylight temperature, the amount of cloud cover, how quickly everything else is losing temperature. There are so many variables before you can conclude that moonlight is a cooling light. You just cannot conclude that from one or two simple experiments using a laser pointer thermometer and saying it's cooler in the moonlight than it is in the shade. Because I could shine it on the road tonight and the road was still 26.1 degrees. And then I shone it onto the grass next to it and it dropped down to 14 degrees. Put it back on the road, 26. Walked down the road a little bit further, same road, same exact road, didn't even go through just a tiny bit of shadow, but when we got through to the other side, same road, it is now 20 degrees. And yet when I walk back up, it's still 26. Same road. That's what I mean. There's so many variables that to try and draw a conclusion from any single thing using a laser pointer thermometer and saying one thing concludes another, therefore the moonlight is a cool producing light. And I still have to go into this again and again and again, because I keep seeing it all the time from a lot of flat earthers who I have a lot of respect for. And the one thing I keep seeing is saying is the moon produces a cool light. Okay. Nothing we can prove one way or another. But the next thing that really gets me is that you say that the moonlight produces its own light and that it is not a reflection of sunlight. That's the bit that really gets me, to say it's not a reflection of sunlight. I can smell my dinner burning up there, so I'm not going to talk for much longer. Just give me then one source of information or logical explanation for how the moon produces its own light. When I can sit here for half an hour and tell you exactly how it's the sun projecting its light on the moon that causes the moon to be illuminated by the sun, so that as we see it, we get the moonlight effect. It's not a reflection, it's an effect of the illumination of the moon that produces some amount of light here on Earth. And particularly because it's so dark, a great big celestial body out there lit by the sun, of course it's going to produce light. You could try it in a room. Okay, just try it in a darkened room with a balloon and shine the torch on the balloon and see if any of the rest of the room is lit up by the light from the balloon. It's really fucking simple. Don't tell me the moon produces its own light unless you can tell me how, why, what is its source, because that is it's doing the whole flat earth movement a disservice. We have to keep everything as factual as possible, and the moon does not produce its own light.